Ready? Good morning, everyone. As always, it is my pleasure to be here today with our Minister, Monty McNaughton, and today I'm with my good friend MPP Sabawe, Commissioner Glassberg, and Riddhi. As you know, by working together, we can achieve more. The Minister and our wonderful caucus members are truly doing an incredible job under the leadership of Premier Ford. I'm also pleased to welcome Riddhi Agarwal, an immigrant and a professional, and want to say thank you to Riddhi for joining us today to share your inspiring journey. Our government is laser focused on making sure newcomers are welcomed into Canada. I am a first-generation immigrant, landed at Pearson Airport on January 15th, 2000, with lots of dream and an undergrad degree in chemical engineering. Soon after landing, despite of having an experience in engineering field, my life came to standstill. Not because of the bitter cold or the white snow. It was because when I found that my degree is not recognized and I'm not allowed to write engineering or engineer with my name anymore. There was a choice to pursue the struggle to get my degree recognized or work in odd jobs and bring food for the family. And this is a typical immigrant story where most immigrants have to go through the similar hardship. Today's announcement is very heartwarming for me, as I have lived through the experience. Today's announcement is about preserving the dignity of every immigrant in our province of Ontario. No immigrant have to choose between their dignity as a professional and putting food on the table. I know that Minister and I share the same goal with all of you here today to spread opportunity more widely and fairly, so that immigrants are not just welcome to Ontario, but they thrive so that they can contribute more to the society and able to fulfill their dreams. As a first-generation immigrant, I would like to thank Premier Ford and Minister Monty McNaughton for making the necessary changes on foreign credentials and giving the respect our immigrants deserve. Without further delay, it is my absolute pleasure to invite our Minister, Monty McNaughton, to the podium. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Deepak, for that introduction and for that story that you shared. I know it's a story I've heard from you before, and truly what keeps us motivated every single day to make change in Ontario to welcome newcomers. I also, too, want to say thanks to MPP Sabawe. He's going to share his story soon as well about coming to Ontario. Thank you, Sharif, for being here, and of course, Commissioner Glassberg, our Fairness Commissioner, who's doing great work. He's met with a lot of new Canadians to bring forward, in partnership with us, some change. And of course, to Riddhi Agarwal for joining us. Can't wait for you to share your story as well. As we all know, Ontario is the destination for so many people with technical skills and abilities who are in search of greater opportunities for themselves and their families. Immigrants create businesses in all of our communities. They fill much-needed roles and spark our entrepreneurial spirit. I'm proud to welcome them. And our mission is to help them reach their goals and start careers that match their skills. Ontario proudly welcomes more immigrants every year than any other province in the country. However, only 25% of these newcomers are working in a job that matches their skills, despite almost 300,000 jobs in Ontario going unfilled and billions lost in productivity. If we're going to tackle the generational labor shortage facing Ontario, we need everyone participating. Unlocking the full potential of skilled newcomers is crucial to building back a stronger province. For newcomers, finding work is their top priority. They have the skills and motivation, but face multiple barriers to getting started. Many of them could be working in professions and skilled trades we desperately need as engineers, architects, or accountants. Yet, they often face endless government bureaucracy and red tape when seeking to get their start. As you can imagine, this can deter and deny many newcomers a chance to contribute in the professions they've trained all their lives for. This needs to change. Helping these workers start careers in industries that need them would be life-changing. That's why our government intends to propose unprecedented legislation this fall that would, if passed, remove these barriers. Ontario would become the first province in Canada to level the playing field for skilled professionals. How? By eliminating unfair requirements to have Canadian work experience unless required for public health and safety. By reducing and streamlining language tests. And by ensuring license applications are processed faster. Make no mistake, these changes will have a huge impact on newcomers and contribute to their success and ours. These changes aren't contentious, they're just long overdue. Today's announcement builds on the work we are already doing to help skilled immigrants find work in their field of expertise through the Ontario Bridge Training Program. Over the next 3 years, we are investing $67 million in 46 projects that will help internationally trained immigrants get licensed so they can start working. Connecting a newcomer with a job he or she is qualified to do means more than just a paycheck. It returns to them a sense of meaning, dignity, and purpose, and also allows them to provide for their family. We're lucky to live in a province as rich in talent as Ontario, and it's time we unleash our full potential. Newcomers know that family is the fundamental unit of life, and these proposed changes, if passed, would strengthen immigrants, their families, and all of our communities. Together, we are getting Ontario back on track and building back a better province than ever. Thank you. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce Riddhi. She's got an amazing story, and we can hear hundreds of thousands of more of these stories if we can pass this legislation and make this lasting difference in the lives of new Canadians. So, Riddhi, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank Minister McNaughton and MPP Deepak Anand for welcoming me to Queen's Park. My name is Riddhi Agarwal, and I moved to Canada in 2016. I am honored to share my story with you today. My story, unfortunately, is shared by many newcomers to Ontario. When I first moved to Canada as an internationally trained lawyer from India, I had to start from scratch. As a law student who obtained their credentials outside of Canada, you are required to register yourself with the National Committee on Accreditation, NCA, who assesses your educational and professional experience and then tells you what you need to do to qualify for Law Society bar admissions. Once you pass the NCA exams, you are somewhat at par with the law graduates of Canada. No matter how many years of foreign legal experience you may have, employers still look for the Canadian work experience. I was often asked to work for free. To make ends meet, students rely on minimum wage jobs that allow them the flexibility to work and study. I drove as an Uber driver and worked at the LCBO for several months while completing these equivalencies. Many of my colleagues also worked as security guards. After several rejections and unpaid articling offers, I finally found mentors and employees who could relate with my struggle. After months of sleepless nights and immense financial difficulty, I was finally able to achieve my goal. I am now a licensed barrister and solicitor in the province of Ontario and a proud founder of my law firm, Karma Legal Professional Corporation. But it shouldn't be this difficult. I know people who have waited for several years to restart their lives. Some have sailed and some have unfortunately given up on pursuing their professions entirely. It is mentally and emotionally stressful for newcomers. And having mentored many international trained professionals, I know I'm not alone. Today, I feel blessed to be surrounded by people who not only empathize with our struggles, but are striking to make a change. Minister McNaughton, MPP Deepak Anand, and the entire team, you not only give us hope, but also give us the confidence that our voice is heard. I consider myself extremely lucky and would like to thank you on behalf of everyone who has and is going through this struggle. I now pass it over to the Fairness Commissioner. Thank you.
Rudy, thank you so much for your kind introduction and for sharing your lived experience with all of us. Your story is truly inspiring. As Rudy mentioned, I'm the Fairness Commissioner for the province of Ontario. The mandate of my office is to help ensure that the registration practices of professional regulators are transparent, objective, impartial, and fair. We undertake this work by assessing registration practices, making compliance recommendations, sharing best practices, and providing advice to ministers and other officials. While it's fair to say that registration practices have improved since our legislation was enacted in 2006, there remain inconsistencies between regulators, along with some persistent barriers, especially for internationally trained applicants. These include unnecessary Canadian experience requirements, lengthy assessment and registration processes, and duplicative language proficiency testing. Over the spring and summer, I had the privilege to co-chair with Minister McNaughton and his officials more than a dozen roundtable sessions involving immigrants, industry leaders, settlement groups, and faith-based communities to better understand the barriers that internationally trained applicants encounter. As we listened to these groups, a number of key themes were raised time and again. This gave us a blueprint for further action. I want to sincerely thank Minister McNaughton for quickly acting on the advice received by proposing legislative amendments that would, if passed, articulate more stringent rules to deal with these issues. I am confident that these amendments, if passed, would make a substantial difference. Thank you again, and I will turn the podium over to MPP Sabawi.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. I would like to congratulate Minister Monty McNaughton for the incredible initiative we are announcing today. Minister Monty has been working very hard on this file. Today's announcement is a testimony that this government, under the leadership of Premier Doug Ford, is committed to building a bright future for the people of Ontario. The difficulties faced by immigrants when starting their careers is a well-known issue that has lasted way too long. Helping newcomers and internationally trained immigrants jumpstart their careers to practice their profession should be part and parcel of welcoming immigrants to their new home. It is vital that we help internationally trained immigrants jumpstart their careers and deploy their skills with enthusiasm in their new home of Canada. We must ensure that their passion for a better life, for a better Canada, is put to good use in boosting our economy and ultimately helping all Canadians. As a first-generation immigrant, 26 years ago, I landed in Pearson Airport. I am one of those immigrants. I came here with multiple degrees as a distinguished Middle East regional IT manager for development and services for International Petroleum Corporation. Despite my engineering degree, bachelor degree, qualifications, skills, and years of experience, I faced many difficulties to enter the job market based on Canadian experience qualifier. And sadly, this is true for many immigrants. Throughout the years, I have served in multiple newcomers' offices as a volunteer and as a professor for multiple colleges. In doing so, I have had the honor to meet thousands of extremely qualified immigrants who are highly skillful in their professions. But they have lost hope trying to enter the very industries they bring value to, and have been forced to work any job to make ends meet. I myself had to start working night shifts in Tim Hortons while starting my career, despite being a mid-level professional. In the meantime, those unfilled opportunities in the job market, or as I like to call them, lost opportunities, do not find the right fit for those needed jobs. On one hand, we have tons of skilled workers in the country. On the other hand, we have a shortage of skilled workers in those very industries, even though they are right here. That's why today's announcement is a win-win-win situation. Yes, 3 wins. It is a win for the immigrants to establish their careers and find employment to help provide for their families by integrating into the Canadian workforce faster than ever before. It's also a win for the employers who are filling the needed jobs with skilled workers and will be able to expand their businesses to take on more projects that they are needed. And it's a win for our government as we create a successful environment for new Canadians and grow our economy, building a better Ontario for the people. Our province is one of the top destinations for newcomers because of the opportunities that are available here. And today's announcement propels Ontario to becoming once more the economic engine of Canada and meeting the demands of our booming economy as we recover from COVID-19 pandemic. Minister McNaughton, I thank you for your leadership and hard work on this file for the past 3 years. Thank you on behalf of many Canadian immigrant workers who are looking for opportunity to be successful here in Ontario.
We'll open up to questions from the floor first.
Hi, Minister.
Good morning.
The release talks about streamlining language testing. What do you mean exactly, and would this apply to teachers as well?
So certainly there are lots of barriers that immigrants face, including multiple tests around language. Again, our legislation is proposing to eliminate the Canadian work experience, reduce that multiple testing when it comes to language proficiency, and to knock down all barriers that we can. I just want to take a moment to really speak to why we're doing this. Most importantly and fundamentally, it's because of the stories like Sharif, Riddhi, Deepak, and literally the millions of immigrants that have come to Ontario. This is something that should have been dealt with literally decades ago. It's governments of all stripes that haven't dealt with this. So this fundamentally is about creating life-changing opportunities for new Canadians here in Ontario, and it's going to have obviously a huge impact on dealing with the labour shortages that we have in our province.
And so you would replace all the language testing happening right now with just one new test? Or?
What we're going to do is ensure that we have the tools in place to enable the Fairness Commissioner, the Minister of Labour, Training and Skills Development to ensure that there's less barriers for immigrants, and specifically around the language testing to reduce the duplicative tests that immigrants have to face.
Perfect. We'll go to the phone lines now, please.
Your first question comes from Matthew Bingley with Global News. Please go ahead.
Hi, Minister. I'm wondering, what has been the holdup on something like this? You mentioned all governments of all stripes have had to deal with this. I think almost everyone must have met someone who is a skilled immigrant who is in a job that they're overqualified for. What was the impetus for this? Is it just the fact that you're facing a labor shortage?
Look, my mission as Minister of Labour Training and Skills Development is to ensure that we're spreading opportunity more widely and fairly in every community across the province. And we heard Riddy's story about, driving as an Uber driver. We want immigrants and new Canadians to reach their full potential here. I think, and I talk often about the shortage in the skilled trades. I mean, we need 100,000 workers in Ontario in the trades over the next number of years. These are jobs that pay six figures with a defined pension and benefit. Again, this is about unlocking the full potential of immigrants and supporting them and their families with bigger paychecks and better working conditions. And it will go a long ways to dealing with the labor shortage that we have.
Follow-up?
Yeah, I want to ask about Premier Ford's comments on immigration earlier this week. Obviously, he's had more than one opportunity to apologize for his choice of words when he said on the dole. I think many people will point out that the Premier is saying two things at the same time, and some immigrants have actually pointed that out to us. What worry or concerns do you have about attracting skilled labor from skilled immigrants with those comments hanging out there?
Well, look, actions speak louder than words. Our government is moving forward with an ambitious agenda with a decisive action to help immigrants, to ensure that we have more immigrants coming to Ontario to reach their full potential. I've worked really closely with the federal Liberal government on this file for the last number of years. In fact, the former minister before the federal election, Marco Mendicino, and I work closely together. We want more autonomy over the immigration system here in Ontario. That's why we continue to ask for a greater allotment through the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program. We need more immigrants. That's what makes our province and our country a better place. It's more new Canadians coming here to reach their full potential, to get these well-paying jobs so they can provide a better life for themselves and their children and all of their families. And it's going to just grow our economy. I think of a recent Scotiabank report that came out recently. This skills mismatch, we only have 25% of immigrants in Ontario that are actually working in fields that they've studied in. This is costing our economy $20 billion every year for the next 5 years. It's a big problem, and we're going to address it.
Next question.
Your next question comes from Brian Lilly with the Toronto Sun. Please go ahead.
Have a good day. Hi, Minister. I want to ask you about, I'll be the old skeptical guy in the room here. I've been hearing politicians promise this for decades. You say it should have been dealt with over decades. I've heard the promises. I've heard the pledges. So perhaps from you and Mr. Anand and the Fairness Commissioner, what's different about this than promises that I've heard from former Premiers Harris, Eves, McGuinty, and Wynne?
Well, look, Brian, sometimes you have to go against the grain, and that's what we're doing. We're breaking down these barriers. We're introducing legislation that, if passed, is going to create a clear pathway for immigrants to reach their full potential here in the province of Ontario. It takes a strong political will to get things done. And, we've been rolling out a series of initiatives to stand behind workers to ensure that they're reaching their potential, getting bigger paychecks, having better working conditions. Some people are surprised at what we've done, but I would say to them, wait till you see the rest of the initiatives that we're rolling out. This is how we're going to build back a better province. We have a serious labor challenge, and we're going to get the job done.
Follow-up?
Did anyone, before I do a follow-up, did anyone else want to speak to those comments?
Sure. MPPNN.
Thank you, Brian, for that wonderful question. I can tell you one thing, it is the commitment. Well, the previous government, we lost 300,000 jobs in manufacturing under the leadership of Premier Ford and Minister Monty McNaughton. We have raised many jobs. So yes, we need people. And our MPP Sabawi said it so well. It is a win-win-win situation. The immigrants are going to live to their full potential, will live their dream. They're going to make more money. And the business is going to have the skill they need to increase their revenue, and the government is going to get the benefit at the end of the day. So I think the best answer I could give is that it is the commitment for the prosperity of Ontario, which is different with this government. Thank you.
Commissioner?
Hi, just as a further follow-up to that question, in my conversations with the minister and his officials, I let him know that I did not feel that under the current legislation that I had sufficient authority to deal proactively with the Canadian experience requirement and with the timeliness of registration processes. So, and I think those perspectives and the need to act in a very proactive way to address these impediments came through loud and clear during our stakeholder roundtable session. So just to reiterate, one of the problems does relate to a statute that is not specific enough. Thank you.
Follow up now?
Yes. So, look, we've heard the stories today about Canadian experience requirements, whether it's professional organizations or unions. Oftentimes in the past, they have acted like guilds to keep people out instead of welcoming them in, and they've had at times ridiculous requirements just to keep numbers down in their profession or their trade. So I want to know how you balance getting rid of those with also making sure that the people that are coming in do have equivalent qualifications. I mean, the stories that we heard today, everyone is coming from somewhere where, yes, they had incredible academic and professional credentials, but not everywhere will have the same requirements that Ontario does. We don't even have that within Canada. So how do you make that balance between taking down unnecessary barriers, but for example, making sure that a building engineer or a medical doctor is actually meeting the qualifications, that you're not lowering qualifications unnecessarily?
No, great question, Brian. We've certainly ensured that there's checks and balances remaining in the system. And you're right, this is the changes that we're proposing are unprecedented in the country. As I said, we're the first province to move on this, and I'm sure we'll see a lot of success here, and other provinces will follow us. I would like to turn it over to MPP Sabawi, a great story, and he can share some more.
Thank you very much. And I don't think the problem is usually accreditation, because there is bodies in Canada which study the accreditation and issue certificate equivalents and exactly what the level of the credentials are, and if it's approved or verified or arbiterative institute who issue it. I think that the barrier is always the Canadian experience. So if you need, for example, 2 years of Canadian experience and you can't get a license to get those 2 years, how are you going to get there? It's like the egg or chicken situation. You need 2 years Canadian experience, but you can't work in Canada yet. You can't get a license to work in Canada. So how you can generate that 2 years? From where? Thin air? Can't happen. And I think that's the legislation addressing the impossible barriers which face many of the qualified skilled workers. Thank you.
Seeing as we have no more questions.
Actually, I just want to say one thing in conclusion. This is a real team effort. I'm proud of our legislation, as I said, the first of its kind in Canada, long overdue. But I want to take one moment to thank my ministry team, the Deputy Minister, and everyone at the Ministry of Labour, Training and Skills Development, the Fairness Commissioner and his team, lots of consultations. But I really want to say thanks to my team, to Ben, to Vlad, to Alex, to everyone involved. Thank you for everything. We're really excited about our legislation. It's going to make a difference in the lives of new Canadians and all people here in Ontario. So thank you, everyone.